In this video, we will be going through the methods of preparations of alkynes and their reactions from the NCERT textbook. Let's begin. Here's the first one. So the first method of preparation of alkynes is from calcium carbide. The main reaction is only and only the third reaction. In the first two reactions that you see here, they've only said how calcium carbide is going to be prepared. So when you are heating calcium carbonate, the heating of calcium carbonate forms calcium oxide and it liberates carbon dioxide. That calcium oxide is simply made to react with carbon. It's not a simple reaction with carbon, but let's just say calcium oxide combines with carbon and that gives the formation of calcium carbide and releases carbon monoxide. Now calcium carbide is made to react with water, and when calcium carbide reacts with water, you can simply add water to calcium carbide and that will give the formation of acetylene, that is ethine, and also form calcium hydroxide. Calcium carbide, you can say that the structure is something like this. There's a C triple bond C and there's one valency of carbon atom which is left over, and that will be satisfied by calcium, and H2O can be imagined in this manner, H and OH, and then you can again write H and OH. So we can say that these three groups are going to go together. So that forms C2 and H2, that is basically acetylene. So this is giving you C triple bond C, single bond H, which is acetylene, that's right here, or you can call it ethine. And the other part, that is calcium and the two OH groups, are going to go together and that forms calcium hydroxide. So that's one way by which you can imagine the reaction, and it just helps you in memorizing the reaction for a longer period of time. So ultimately that's the reaction by which you are forming ethine from calcium carbide. Going ahead with vicinal dihalides. When we talk about vicinal halides, it means two halogen atoms are there in the molecule which are attached to different carbon atoms, and specifically talking about this reaction, the two halogen atoms have to be attached to neighboring carbon atoms. So say for example there's a bromine atom with this carbon atom, the other bromine has to be with the carbon atom adjacent to this, that is the second bromine atom has to be on this carbon atom. Now what you're doing is you're making this vicinal dihalide react with alcoholic KOH, and the reaction with alcoholic KOH was very clear that it causes dehydrohalogenation. So bromine from here is going to come out with hydrogen from here, and that is how HBr comes out. But that HBr will react with KOH forming KBr and H2O. So there should be a plus KBr and plus H2O right here. But instead of writing it along with the products, they have written it on the arrow itself over here. So KBr and H2O are going to get formed in this reaction, and after bromine and hydrogen come out from here, there will be a double bond getting formed between the two carbon atoms here, and that very compound is something you can see here. Okay, now alcoholic KOH is not a base which is very strong to create dehydrohalogenation one more time. So if you want to create that, or if you want to carry out the dehydrohalogenation once again, then you need a stronger base than alcoholic KOH, and that stronger base will be NaNH2. So you are making this compound further react with NaNH2, which is a base stronger than alcoholic KOH. So dehydrohalogenation takes place again, that is this bromine goes away with the hydrogen here. So HBr comes out, that HBr will react with NaNH2, and the two are going to form NaBr plus NH3 as an additional product. That NaBr and NH3 has been written on the arrow here itself. And whatever is left over with us is this part of the molecule where there will be a triple bond getting formed between the two carbon atoms after removing hydrogen and bromine. So this compound finally is the one that you have here. So that's how you're forming an alkyne, that is this alkyne specifically being ethine or acetylene. So that's the reaction by which you're forming alkynes from a vicinal dihalide. Okay, if your question is why not use NaNH2 in the first step also, then yeah, you can do it, but I've discussed it with KOH because the NCERT textbook mentions it as KOH. Okay, so the methods of preparations are done here, and we now start with the reactions of alkynes. The first reaction is the reaction which helps you to understand the acidic character of alkynes. Now, when we talk of the carbon atom in alkynes, carbon atom in alkane is sp3 hybridized. Carbon atom will be sp2 hybridized in an alkene, and it will be sp hybridized in an alkyne. sp hybridized carbon atom has the maximum electronegativity. So this carbon atom out here, it's a triple bond, it's a carbon atom involved in the triple bond. So this is sp hybridized carbon atom. The carbon atom here is involved in a triple bond, and that is why this is an sp hybridized carbon atom. Its electronegativity is high enough, and it is high enough to pull the electron pair shared between the carbon and hydrogen atom towards carbon. So this carbon atom pulls the electron pair which it has shared with hydrogen towards itself, and that makes this hydrogen come out easily as H plus. So because this molecule is able to give out H plus easily, it is acidic in nature, and the acidic nature is confirmed by the reaction with a metal. It is a well-known fact that every metal will react with an acid giving out hydrogen. So here also we are making this compound react with a metal, and because it is liberating hydrogen, we say that the compound is acidic in nature. So the reaction goes something like this. Sodium comes in and replaces the hydrogen which is there on the carbon atom involved in the triple bond. So you get C minus and Na plus. H plus comes out, and just to balance out the reaction they are writing half H2. Okay, so if you want you can just eliminate the half from here, and you can say that it's 2 times this plus 2 times this, giving 2 times this, and 1 mole of H2 is going to come out. Because hydrogen is coming out, we said that the compound here is going to be acidic in nature. Okay, so this is monosodium ethynide. The next one is okay, now if you continue that reaction, see you have one more carbon atom involved in the triple bond, and that triple bond that carbon atom involved in the triple bond has hydrogen atom along with it. So that hydrogen atom can still come out if a further reaction with sodium can happen. So we are taking that monosodium ethynide and making it react with sodium. So this sodium replaces the hydrogen here. You get disodium ethynide because there's a sodium atom with each of the 2 carbon atoms, and the hydrogen atom that got replaced, the hydrogen, that hydrogen came out as half H2. Okay, so because again hydrogen is coming out, we say that the compound here is also sufficiently acidic, this compound. Okay, now check one more compound, that's propyne. Now in case of propyne, the 2 carbon atoms involved in the triple bond are here. It is only this carbon atom that is having a hydrogen atom with it. So the hydrogen atom which can come out, indicating the acidic behavior, is only this hydrogen atom. There's no hydrogen atom with this carbon atom. These hydrogen atoms are bonded to this carbon atom which is actually sp3 hybridized. So you can't have these hydrogens coming out. So these 3 hydrogen atoms are going to stay with the molecule. It's only this hydrogen that comes out, and it indicates the acidic behavior of propyne. So reaction this time not with sodium but NaNH2, which is also sufficiently basic in nature. So that reaction replaces H with Na plus, you get C minus, and that H combines with NH2 minus, forming NH3. Okay, so the compound you get is called sodium propionide, and these reactions with sodium and sodium amide, it's not sodium amide, it's soda amide. Okay, so these reactions are indicative of the fact that alkynes are acidic in nature, but the acidic hydrogen is only that hydrogen which is attached with the triple bonded carbon atom. If there is hydrogen with a single bonded carbon atom, or precisely sp3 hybridized carbon atom, then those hydrogens are not the ones which will come out as H plus. Okay, so if there's a question in your mind that what about butane, so if I talk about butane in this manner, CH3, C triple bond C single bond CH3, this is but2ine. So will butane contain acidic hydrogen atoms? No, because the 2 carbon atoms in the triple bond are here, and the 2 carbon atoms don't have any hydrogen attached with them. So this compound is not going to be acidic in nature, because the triple bonded carbon atoms don't have a hydrogen atom with them. Going ahead with the addition reactions. Addition of dihydrogen, it's a reaction you have done earlier, so we'll go a little fast with this. In the presence of platinum, palladium or nickel catalyst, of course with heating, hydrogen is going to add on the triple bond, and that will give you an alkene. In the presence of these catalysts, the reaction does not stop at the alkene stage. The addition of hydrogen further continues, and that gives you the formation of alkane, and at the alkane stage the reaction finally stops. Even if you are taking propine, making it react with hydrogen, hydrogen first adds on the double bond in the presence of platinum palladium nickel catalyst at high temperature, forming propene. The reaction doesn't stop there. Further addition of hydrogen continues till you ultimately end up reaching the alkane, which is propane in this particular case. Going ahead with the next case, addition of halogens. Now if you are adding Br2, keep in mind I had mentioned this, that if you are adding Br2 in presence of CCl4, only then the addition is going to take place on the triple bond or double bond if it is present. If it was added in presence of UV light, then bromine would have replaced hydrogen atoms of the sp3 hybridized carbon atom. So here I have to mention that it is in the presence of CCl4 solvent. Here they have actually said bromine water. So even if it is not CCl4, even if it is simply H2O, then also it is absolutely fine. Still, in presence of this kind of a solvent, the bromine addition is going to take place on the triple bond. So this bromine atom adds on this carbon atom, the other bromine adds on the other carbon atom. There's one bond breaking between the two carbon atoms, and you ultimately have only a double bond between the two carbon atoms. The final structure is what they have shown here. Okay, so the two carbon atoms, like I said, containing a bromine atom, and the triple bond getting converted to a double bond between the two of them. A further addition of bromine will take place, and the bromine atoms are again going to add on the carbon-carbon double bond only. And after the addition of two more bromine atoms, the double bond will now become a single bond, and this is the final compound you get. To give it a name, 1, 2, 3 is the longest chain. There are 4 bromine atoms. So we have to write tetrabromo. But where are these bromine atoms? They are on 1, 1, 2, 2. It's tetrabromo and 3 carbon atoms, and that is why you call it propane. Okay, so that's the final naming of the compound. In this case, in this reaction, what we say is bromine water is going to be reddish orange in color. So reddish orange color of the solution is, okay, of bromine in carbon tetrachloride is decolorized. See, that happens because you are consuming bromine in the reaction. That reddish brown color of the solution was because of the presence of bromine. And if you are taking away bromine in the reaction, if you are consuming bromine in the reaction, the reddish brown color is going to fade away, or it is going to disappear. So every time you have an unknown compound and you make it react with bromine water, if the color decolorizes, if the color fades away, then we say that there is unsaturation present in the compound. And yeah, this is a particular test for detecting the presence of unsaturation in any unknown compound. That is the bromine water test. Okay, so like we said, reaction with bromine water will make bromine add across the triple bond or the double bond if it is present, and these are the kind of compounds that you get. And keep in mind, if the reaction is in the presence of UV, then bromine or chlorine, if it is present, is going to add on the sp3 hybridized carbon atom by replacing the hydrogen atoms. Going ahead with the next reaction, you have again ethyne, and you are adding HBr to it. It's very simple. You need to simply follow the Markovnikov rule. Now ethyne is not an unsymmetrical alkyne, so here you need not apply the Markovnikov rule. You can add H to whichever carbon you want, bromine to whichever carbon you want. So let us say H goes to this carbon atom and bromine goes to this carbon atom. You get the formation of CH2, CH and Br, and the triple bond here gets converted to a double bond. So that's what you get, which is bromoethane. You add another HBr to it. Now here's where you need to be careful. Like I said, addition of HBr has to be done by the Markovnikov rule. Markovnikov rule stated that the negative part of the reagent will go to the carbon atom having lesser number of hydrogen atoms. It's this carbon atom that has lesser number of hydrogen atoms, and hence bromine will come and attach with the carbon atom here, and hydrogen goes to this carbon atom, giving you CH3 here and CHBr2 here. Also this bond will become a single bond. So that's the final compound you have, which is, let's write it the way we discussed. We have CH3. There was a hydrogen coming with this, so it became CH3, single bond, CH and Br twice. So CH, a Br here, and with it there's another Br. And the way you can name it is 1 carbon, 2 carbon. So there are 2 bromine atoms at the position number 1. You can say 1, comma 1, dibromo, 2 carbon atoms, and that is why ethane. So 1, 1 dibromoethane. going ahead with a similar reaction. It's the reaction of HBr with propyne, and like I said, Markovnikov rule, negative part goes to the carbon atom with lesser number of hydrogen atoms. Hydrogen comes here, so this becomes a bromine substitution on the middle carbon atom. The hydrogen which went here made it CH2, so you have a CH2 here and the triple bond getting converted to a double bond. Add yet another HBr to it. So again bromine will go to the carbon atom having lesser number of hydrogen atoms, and hydrogen will attach to the other carbon atom. That makes this part CH3, like you can see here. A bromine atom got added to the middle carbon atom. So the middle carbon atom got this bromine atom, and CH3 which was originally present has also been written. That's the structure of the final compound. The way you name it is 1, 2, 3. So there are 2 bromine atoms on the second carbon, and you call it 2, 2. It's dibromo and propane. So it's 2, 2 dibromopropane. Okay, so that's how you're adding hydrogen halides to an alkyne. And with that, let's continue with the next reaction, addition of water. Now, in this reaction, all you need to keep in mind is the condition. It is HgSO4 and H2SO4. Being very specific, it is 1% HgSO4 and 40% H2SO4. Every time you see this kind of a condition, you need to understand that you are going to add water by the Markovnikov rule on whatever unsaturation is present. Be it an alkyne or be it an alkene, it does not matter. This condition is the condition for adding water on alkene or alkyne by the Markovnikov rule. So take this molecule which is ethine. So when we talk of ethine plus H2O, currently the alkyne that we have is symmetrical. So let's put that H here and let's put that OH here. So we have CH2, CHOH. CH2, CHOH. The triple bond also breaks and becomes a double bond. They are saying isomerization. Specifically, if I have to call it, it is tautomerization. So tautomerization means, see, the OH bond is polar enough, and or let's say oxygen atom is electronegative enough to take the shared pair of electrons with hydrogen towards itself. So oxygen will take away the electron pair with itself. H will come out as H plus, and oxygen will gain a negative charge here because of the pair of electrons that it has taken. H plus will attack the double bond here, and it will take away the pi electrons of that bond, and it will form a bond with this carbon atom. So this part is going to become CH3. The electrons from this bond were taken, and ultimately they were lost by this carbon atom, which develops a positive charge. This carbon atom having a positive charge, oxygen has a negative charge. So oxygen shares one electron pair with that carbon atom, forming a double bond. And finally the compound you have is CH3, C, H and a double bond O. So that compound has been written here, and that is acetaldehyde, or the IUPAC name for it will be ethanol. Okay, so that's how the entire concept is going to work like. If this concept is not very easily understandable to you, or you are facing a little bit of difficulty in perceiving this thing, then there's an easier way to do it. I used to do it when I was a student, and I still work out my reactions in this manner only. So this is the compound we had, plus we added HOH in the presence of HgSO4 and H2SO4. I'm not writing the specifics, but yeah, you should know 40% H2SO4, 1% HgSO4. The compound you got by doing that was CH2 double bond CH, OH. Add one more H2O to it. Okay, it's the same condition. H2O getting added in the presence of HgSO4 and H2SO4. So when you are adding H2O, the negative part, that is OH, goes to the carbon atom having lesser number of hydrogen atoms, and hydrogen goes to this carbon atom. That makes this part CH3. The double bond breaks and becomes a single bond. OH attaches with the carbon atom here, so you get C, H, OH and OH. It is a very well known principle that two OH groups on the same carbon atom are going to make that compound unstable. So there's one H2O which is going to come out in this manner. So when you are removing H2O, the final compound that you are left with is going to look like this. There's a CH3 here, there's a carbon atom here, single bond H and a double bond O. Double bond O is with this oxygen. The leftover H2O was already taken out in the form of water. Okay, so that's the final compound you have, which is acetaldehyde. And yeah, that's how you can look at that reaction in a different way if you're not comfortable with the tautomerization concept. For a long run, it would be better to have both the things in your mind, but at the very start, if you're using this particular kind of imagination, it will help you in at least getting the answers correctly. Yet, like I said, tautomerization, important concept. Try to learn it so that later on, when only tautomerization can work for some particular reaction, you're not in a fix that because you have not learned it, you don't know it. Okay, we go ahead with the next reaction. Okay, this is one more example with addition of water only. So again, the same thing. It's propine, and you're adding water. So the negative part OH is going to attach with this carbon atom because it has lesser number of hydrogen atoms, and this hydrogen attaches with the carbon atom here. So that gives you OH on the middle carbon atom. Hydrogen coming on this carbon makes it CH2. So you have CH2 here. The triple bond breaks and it becomes a double bond. Okay. Now you can add a water molecule again to it. So OH will attach with the middle carbon atom here, and H will go to this carbon atom making it CH3. This becomes a single bond, and from the two OH groups which are attached on the same carbon atom, you can eliminate H2O. So OH gets out from here, H gets out from here, so H2O comes out, and there's a double bond formation here. So that gives you the formation of CH3, CCH3, double bond oxygen, which is the very compound that they have written here. You call it acetone, or in IUPAC nomenclature you call it propanone. In the next concept, that is the concept of polymerization, they haven't given us any reaction, but there's a little bit of information that they have given us on the polymer of ethyne. So the polymer of ethyne is, you call it polyethine, or you call it polyacetylene, and the structure is going to look something like this. To give you a better idea about the structure, consider several molecules of ethyne, and now think that with every molecule you are breaking one bond between the two carbon atoms. So if you break this bond, the two carbon atoms are going to get an electron. Break this bond, the two carbon atoms get one electron each. Break this bond, the two carbon atoms get an electron here. Let these two carbon atoms share their electrons between themselves, forming a single bond. Make these two carbon atoms share their electrons, so there's a single bond here, and that entire thing just keeps on continuing for a large number of molecules, and that finally forms a very big molecule formed of repeating units of ethyne, and that final molecule which you got, that final polymer you got, is what you call polyacetylene or polyethylene. Okay, now if you check this structure is more like these many atoms or this much of structure getting repeated time and again to form the entire molecule. So you can write the entire structure in this manner, that is this basic repeating unit, and when you just repeat it n number of times or a large number of times, you get the final polymer, which is polyethylene. And that is why they have said that this part is the repeating unit of that polymer, which we call polyethylene. Okay. Now, a very peculiar property about this molecule is that if you check the carbon atoms, all of them are sp2 hybridized. So all of them are going to contain an unhybridized p orbital, and that unhybridized p orbital, it can form a continuous network, and that continuous network of unhybridized p orbitals is a conducting path. It's a path for the electrons to flow. The delocalization of electrons on that entire path is giving these molecules the ability of conducting electricity, and that is why, check this, under special conditions, the conditions they have not mentioned it here, even we will not speak about it for now, because currently we need not get into so much of detail with this topic, but yeah, you should know that under some specific conditions this polymer does have the ability of conducting electricity, and a thin film of polyacetylene, due to this property, can be used as an electrode in batteries. Electrode in batteries needs to be a material which can conduct electricity, and yeah, this thin film of polyacetylene does serve this purpose. So a few more applications that they are good conductors of, like we said, electricity. They are lighter and cheaper than metal conductors. Lighter because ultimately this is plastic, and yeah, the method of preparation and the overall cost happens to be in such a way that yeah, they are cheaper than metallic conductors. Going ahead with the next type of polymerization. Okay, they call it polymerization, but you can call it cyclization also. They have called it cyclic polymerization. So when you are taking acetylene, that is simply ethyne, and take 3 molecules of ethyne, you are passing them through a red hot iron tube at a temperature of 873 Kelvin. They undergo trimerization, means that 3 molecules are going to combine with each other and they are going to form benzene. How to imagine the reaction? There's a triple bond, break one bond and convert all of them to a double bond. The carbon atoms here get an odd electron with themselves. Even this becomes a double bond, and because you have broken one bond, one electron goes here, the other electron comes here. A double bond here, one electron here and the other electron here. The 2 carbon atoms here are going to share their electrons and form a single bond between themselves. These 2 carbon atoms are going to do the same thing, and the 2 carbon atoms here also do the same thing, and that gives rise to the formation of benzene. Okay, so that's how this particular reaction takes place, that is cyclization of acetylene to give you benzene. You need to keep in mind that even in spite of acetylene, what if I tell you propyne? Propyne means there will be a CH3 with each of the carbon atoms here, here and here. Okay, the same reaction can be seen with propyne as well. Even in propyne, this becomes a double bond, this becomes a double bond, this becomes a double bond, and the carbon atoms here, here and here share their electrons. That will give you a compound which will be having a methyl substitution here, here as well as here. Okay, so you need to be careful with these reactions, because when it comes to JEE mains or advanced or MHTCT or any kind of a competitive exam, these are the kind of variations that they can bring in your questions. So yeah, with that we are done with all the reactions and methods of preparations of alkynes. I hope that the content that I've covered in this video has been somewhere helpful to you in your preparations. Do check out the next video where we have discussed the methods of preparations of aromatic compounds and even their reactions. Thank you for watching.